the Texas 6th Congressional District special election was held following the death of Representative Ron Wright. Governor Greg Abbott called a special election on May 1st. In a shocking rebuke of the Democratic Party, all three counties, Tarrant, Ellis, and Navarro, went to the Republican Party. We will get into analysis in a little while, but just taking a look at a sample ballot in Navarro County, which is in the southwesternmost part of the district, where Susan Wright, the wife of the former representative, did exceptionally well. Looking at this sample ballot, there are many candidates. As you can see, there are many candidates. Many of them did not gain a significant amount of the vote. For Michael Ballantyne, Travis Roderman, Tammy Allison are just examples of candidates who did not gain significant number of votes. Looking at this, there are so many candidates, but many of them did not gain more than 5%. Looking at them, they're just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 candidates who gained more than 5%. In fact, the two highest vote getters, both Republican, Susan Wright and Jake Ellzey, both have not gained more than 20%. So as I said, these two guys have advanced to the runoff. Trump-backed wife of former Representative Susan Wright and conservative stalwart Jake Ellzey. Now, interestingly enough, if we look at the 2020 United States presidential election in Texas, let's go back to the New York Times. Let's see, New York Times 2020 Senate, and let's head right there. So the really interesting fact is Tarrant County, which had a majority of their votes go to the Republicans, whether it was Susan Wright or Jake Ellzey. But if we look in the presidential election in the great state of Texas, some very interesting results here. And if we go back to this map, we can see right here in the state of Texas, we can see that in Tarrant County, which is let's zoom in a little bit more. Tarrant County, which is here, Ellis and Navarro. So this is the 6th district. Tarrant County went to President Biden by 0.2%, a little, about 1.8, about 1,800 votes. However, in this election, it went by a big margin to the Republican. Jana Sanchez only receiving 15 points and Sean Lasseter at 11.3. Now, if we take a look at this congressional district special election, the frontrunner Jana Sanchez eliminated, Sean Lasseter eliminated, Tammy Allison, Brian Harrison, and John Castro are all eliminated. And now, if we look down, Lydia Bean, a small business owner, was endorsed by the Tarrant County AFL-CIO. And if we look at Jana Sanchez, she did not receive much of endorsements other than the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Looking at this polling, we can see that Susan Wright having a big majority, but Jana Sanchez being close by. Lydia Bean was given a lot of attention by the media, but in fact, just when we're coming into election night, she was at 5%. And if we look at her total vote getting, it's about there, slightly less. Lydia Bean at 3.7%. So that's extremely interesting here. The polls did put it as a lean and likely Republican district. And if we look at the Texas 6th Congressional District, it has had a long history of electing Republicans. In the past history, we can see we had a Republican in the seat from 1983 when all the lower districts started becoming affected by the long-term party realignment, because earlier on, Lyndon B. Johnson and all won Texas, but at some point the state's politics shifted to its national politics, and it became a Republican stronghold, not even once voting for a Democrat. Now, if you take a look, in 2016, the numbers were very different. In Tarrant County, Hillary Clinton behind by about 8.6 points. And that's a big margin. And the fact is, Democrats were hoping to win here because it was a suburban district. However, because it was a suburban district, because that is a location they're hoping to invest in, because that's the kind of location that they won in the Georgia Senate runoffs, which we can see right here. The Democrats won a narrow, razor-thin majority because of their wins in Georgia. And over there, they beat Trump-backed nominees there to win a narrow majority by gaining some suburban districts and some swing districts, like in the Columbus area. And even though John Ossoff had a closer runoff, he still did relatively well. And the fact is, Democrats were hoping this would continue, even if they did not win the runoff, which was extremely likely. Even if they did get into the runoff, it was a big step for them. However, looking at this set of results, it is the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee must be extremely disappointed. However, it obviously does not affect the House balance of power because it's a Republican. Ron Reid was elected as a Republican, and it's staying as a Republican seat. But the Republicans must obviously be happy having two of them getting elected. And the interesting fact is, there are quite a few Democrats in Tarrant County. I mean, it went for Joe Biden here by a small margin, nonetheless, but by still a relatively reasonable margin. And that means, looking at the numbers, if the Democrats are the key battleground electorate. If they decide to back Susan Wright, she will win by about 75 points. If the Democrats back Jake Pelosi, he would probably win by about 55 or so points, but he might win by greater or lesser margins, or even narrowly lose. But Democrats are the key electorate here, and whether they support the Trump-backed but more centrist Susan Wright, or the conservative but non-Trump associated Jake Pelosi. Now, if we look at the results in Tarrant County for the 6th Congressional District Special Election, we can see Susan Wright gaining a big majority, about 19%, Jake Pelosi getting 14% here, and Jana Sanchez getting 13%. Republican Brian Harrison also at 11, Democrat Sean Lassiter at 9, Republican John Castro at 6, and if we add all of this up, Susan Wright's 19 and Jake Pelosi's 14, that already puts us at 23. If we add Brian Harrison's 11, that puts us at 44, and add John Castro's 6, and that puts us at 50. Republicans gained a majority in Tarrant County, and they still have quite a few Republicans, like Sari Kim, remaining. And that meant in Tarrant County, a county Joe Biden narrowly won, the Democrats are not carrying it down the ballot. This could be a long-term trend. Democrats not carrying some down-ballot races that go narrowly to the Republicans. Or it could just be one instance. Now looking in Navarro County, Susan Wright gaining the biggest number of votes here at 30 points to Brian Harrison's 20. Jake Pelosi at about 15 points, and Democrats at 8 or less points. I mean, Jana Sanchez has the highest Democratic number here, and Sean Lassiter at about 3 points, and Lydia Bean at 1 point. And looking at the total, Democrats have about less than 20%. And lastly, in Ellis County, Democrat Jana Sanchez doing 8% here. Republican Brian Harrison doing quite well here at 19 points. Susan Wright having the second biggest number here at 21 points, and Jake Pelosi at 26 points. Looking at the map, As I said, Jake Ellsey winning in the Ellis district in Ellis County, but in Tarrant County, Susan Wright winning, and as well as in Ellis County. This is significant for the Democrats because they invested heavily here. While not nationally, they were hoping that they would at least reach the runoff. By election night, it was the expected scenario. However, many Democrats, including Sean Lassiter, took a lot of the votes away by having this many candidates. Democrats who, if just half of Sean Lassiter's Democrats cast their ballot for Janelyn Sanchez, she would have made it to the runoff. While it's extremely unlikely she'd have won there, it would have been a significant step forward in the Texas area, especially as Democrats are losing in the southern Texas area. For example, Hillary Clinton winning in Reeves County, as well as Webb County and the surrounding area, but Joe Biden not winning there. If we take a look here, Joe Biden losing in Val Verde County as well as in Reeves County, both of which Hillary Clinton won. And if we take a look back here too, he narrowly lost Val Verde County, but if we look up here in Reeves County, he lost by a big margin, and that's a big thing. In South Texas, many Democrats or Hispanics are moving towards the Republican Party, and that is a big thing. Joe Biden improve the margin statewide, and he did win some counties. For example, Tarrant County up here, and some counties near Austin, for example, Williamson County. But overall statewide, he did an exceptional job, narrowing the margin significantly from about 9 points. This is over here to just about 3 points, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 5 points. Sorry. So 7 points. What am I saying? It's only about 7 points. He did narrow it significantly, but because Republicans in the region, especially in the South Texas region, even on the Senate level, you can see they lost heavily in the Rio Grande region, and that's worrying for them because if they want to flip Texas, that is a big part of where they get their ballots, as well as from the Fort Worth, Austin, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio areas, as well as in El Paso and its surrounding areas. So they are quite worried. Democrats should be paying close attention here because these kind of races are what will determine the control of the U.S. House in 2022. Thank you for watching, and if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Brought to you by Tiny Politic.